Hi everyone, welcome to the ninth presentation on the series KSA PDPL. We're going through the NDMO self-assessment checklist and today's topic is security. So Article 19 of the PDPL says a controller shall implement all the necessary organizational, administrative and technical measures to protect personal data, including during the transfer of personal data in accordance with the provisions and controls set out in the regulations. Now, there's quite a lot there. We've got to unpack what all of this means. So the first thing to notice is it says necessary measures. It is silent after that. It doesn't say you must have a VPN. It does not say you must have encryption. It does not say you have to have passwords. What it talks about are the necessary measures. So what does this mean? This means that you essentially have to look at what data you have, how you're processing it, what are the risks and vulnerabilities around all of that, and then looking at that assessment, you should do what is necessary. So if, for example, you're processing health data or financial records, you obviously have to have very, very, very serious security because people are interested in this data. Huge harm could be caused to people if it comes out. If, on the other hand, you simply have a list of people's email addresses and it's just people who are interested in coffee, which is not a very controversial subject, then obviously you don't want to lose that. It's bad for your reputation, but you don't have to have the same level of security around that because, after all, most people's email addresses are reasonably public. I mean, a lot of hundreds of people will have a person's email address, and the fact that they like coffee, it's not very controversial. So yes, you have to look after it, but you may not need to have the same level of security around it. But what this does is the thing to notice is very much like the GDPR, it tells you that your measures have to be the necessary measures, and it does not tell you exactly what those are. So it tells you to implement these measures in three domains. So one is organizational. So what does that mean? Well, it means that your organization must be structured in such a way as that you look after data, and that probably means that you have to have people who are responsible for security, people whose job descriptions are to be responsible for certain kinds of information assets, people who respond in emergencies, etc. So your organizational structure must conform to that. It then talks about administrative measures. Now, what's an administrative measure? Well, an administrative measure must be something like you must have policies, you must have procedures, you must know what to do if there is an issue of some kind, and people need to have access to that. So you need to have procedures around that. That is what an administrative measure would be. And then the thing that we kind of tend to think much more of when it comes to security is technical. The technical measures are all those things that we traditionally think of as relating to security, things like encryption, things like firewalls, things like passwords, etc. So all of those things. And again, bear in mind, all of these measures are around protecting personal data, and this is including during the transfers of personal data. So it's not just about how you're looking after data that's sitting in your organization. What are you going to do when you move that data outside your organization? It may well be to another organization within KSA. It could be to moving it abroad. Regulation 21.1, which is the implementation regulations, kind of fleshes a couple of things out, and it very helpfully, it kind of takes us back to what we generally think of as being what security is about, to implement necessary security and technical measures to limit security risks related to a personal data breach. So we won't talk about that because I think that's reasonably straightforward. The next bit is a little bit more interesting. So it says comply with relevant control standards and rules issued by the National Cybersecurity Authority. The National Cybersecurity Authority is a Saudi authority that lays out a very, very specific set of standards. Now, you must comply with that if you are looking after national infrastructure. So if you are running an airport, if you are managing huge highways, so you are looking after incredibly important parts of the infrastructure, the undermining of which would harm the entire country then, and if you are a government entity. So that kind of takes most people out. So if you are a reasonably big company, obviously you have to have security standards, but you don't have to comply with the National Cybersecurity Authority, although you are absolutely allowed to, and it's a good place to go to. If you're not a government entity, you're not looking after national infrastructure, then you must adhere to recognized best practices and cybersecurity standards. Now, what are these? Let's have a look at some of them. There are lots of them around the world. NIST, which is the big American government standard, huge amount of documentation. There's a lot of best practice here. SOC 2 is also favored by a lot of organizations. The one that's, I think, very, very famous is ISO 27001 and all of the other ISOs that relate to it. This is something that is very, very good for medium to large organizations. When it comes to smaller organizations, then quite often we recommend something like the UK Cyber Essentials or Cyber Plus scheme, which is a lot more proportionate and it's a bit smaller and easier to comply with, and it's a very, very sensible approach. But you have to look at your data processing and work out what is necessary. As always, you can get in touch with us for any of your data protection needs, and we look forward to seeing you for our next video. Thanks.